Alright, today we're going to be beginning our part modeling review for the rod bracket, the bearing block, the stop block, and the guide socket. And then I'll be placing these quickly on a sheet or to the side to show you how we're going to lay these out and present them. So the first thing you're always going to do is open a part, and most of these are in standard millimeter, so we change those to standard millimeter. And I'm just going to follow along and create these. Feel free to slow down or speed up as you need to get through each part. Always check, make sure your units are correct in your tools document settings. If you didn't set the file up correctly in the beginning, expand your origin and begin sketching. And when I create this object, I'm just going to look at the simplest, fewest amount of steps to create this. So I'm going to make this side profile here. I'm going to extrude it out, and then I'll create the holes on the surfaces and chamfer the edges. So I'm just going to start with the circular feature and work my way out. Keep in mind your units. So we've got radius is 15, diameter is 30. I'm going to go to offset. The radius is 25, diameter is 50. Okay, so I create that circle. Now I'm going to go ahead and create the line from the center midpoint on the bottom out to the back edge, which is 50. So I've got my line tool selected. Notice my tangent symbol pops up, and we're going to take this line out 50. And then I'm going to go up. How tall is it? 75. And then I'm going to go over. How thick is this here? 10. And then I'm going to come down. We have to subtract our total thicknesses here. This is how you get it. So we have 15 from there. So here's what I can do. I can just draw a line, or I can just do a little bit of math. We got 15 from the total height, which is 75, because we're trying to get right here, right? Our total height all the way up. 75 minus 15 is 60. So if I take this down 60, and then I connect this over, do not go all the way to the inside of the circle here. There is a vertical line that is tangent. So what we'll do is we'll create a line here, and we know that's 15, and then we just go vertically. Notice when I come vertically, that tangent symbol pops up. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start over on this end point of the circle here. I'm going to go up 10 and then over whatever's left from 120 minus 75. So I'm going to start here, I'm going to go up 10, and then I'm going to go over, let's see, and I can go to my calculator real quick, and we can do 120 minus 75. We get 45. 45, my thickness, well, I know the thickness is going to make it tangent to there, so really if I just hover my mouse, it'll highlight when I get a tangent relationship. And that would be your sketch. There's more than one way to do that, but that's the primary way. Then we're going to come in and trim this. Trim up all your extras so it looks like that, so we get the exact same layout. And then we're going to say finish sketch. We're going to extrude that. And I'm going to do symmetrical because I like things to be centered on initial plane. And the total distance is 75 millimeters. That's how thick it is. Okay, so now I've got a basic shape that's 75 millimeters thick, and I'm going to create these holes on top. So you're going to click on this surface, click sketch, and then you're going to create some holes. Now the holes have a radius of 5, so the diameter is 10. And the good rule of thumb is to just go ahead, sketch a circle that's 10, and then use your dimension tool to constrain it. So I'm going to go from this edge to my center point. That should be 15, as you see here. Then I'm going to go from the top edge to the center point. That should be 20, as you see here. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Now there's a couple ways you can do that. One is you can copy it, or the other one is you can just come over here and make another 10 circle. We could mirror it too, but for this case, I'm just going to do some quick dimensioning because I know that it's symmetrical. Oops, wrong way. Center point. So you got to be careful when you click your dimension that you get the right thing highlighted. Notice I always bring my dimensions out too because it makes things a little cleaner. So I'll finish sketch. Now that I've created the 2 holes, I have them dimensioned in place. You can do one of 2 things. You can select hole and then you just pick the point, or you can do extrude, click both of these guys, and you want to change your profiles or your method of extrusion to cut. And then that's all you need. So you'll cut those out. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to sketch on the face of this object, because this hole right here goes all the way through. So we're going to go circle, the radius is 10, and again we're just going to sketch it sort of where it looks like it's at, and then dimension it into place. Radius is 10, so diameter is 20. It's 35 from the top edge, and it's 35 from the side edge. Now make sure you're familiar with which edge is which when you orient your view, because this is an asymmetrical, so then this is 35. So it's a little off center there. That's the trick to this one. Finish sketch, extrude cut. And now you don't want to cut through all that, so you really can do 2 things. One is you can pull this 3D grip back to where it doesn't cut, or the other one is you can change the extents, this is one of my favorite box, to be 2. And you can tell it to extrude to that face, and it'll cleanly cut to that face. And you say OK. Now we've created our circles, we got this holes cut through, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to chamfer these edges, which creates this cutout. So in order to do that, you're going to click an edge here, and you're going to go to this little quick feature, the Create Chamfer. Create Chamfer has a distance. Now normally right here you see there's 1 distance. We could change that to be 2 distances, but for now, since it's 15 up and 15 over, we'll just be able to make that 15. Now don't hit OK just yet. Come over here and click your other edge that's 15 and say OK. Alright, so there you go, you have your rod bracket. Now I'm going to keep going on to the next one so that you can have these for reference. Alright, now we're going to go File, we're going to do another new one, but this time I'm going to go to New. I'm going to start off right. And go Metric, Standard, Millimeters Part, Create. Now we're going to start with this one. When you start with this guy, you're going to build the base block first, and then you're going to slowly sketch on top of each surface you create, or on the face of each surface you create. So the first thing I'm going to do is open my origins and come and sketch on my XY. And I'm going to create that base rectangle. Now the total width by the total length is 85, 95, 105, 120 by 65. Yep, so I'm going to make a rectangle. And I'm going to dimension it. It's 120 by 65. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make this balance symmetrically along this axis. I'm going to project geometry. I'm going to project these intersecting axes, these 2 here, these green ones. And then you go to symmetric constraint. I'm going to make this guy's symmetric about here. And then I'm going to make this guy symmetric about, you got to close that out, symmetric about the center. And say OK. So now I've got a nice solid rectangle which represents the overall base. I'm going to extrude that, and as usual I'm going to do a symmetrical extrude, and the thickness of this is 20. So I made that 20. Now we've basically got our rectangle showing just like we have here. Now there's a couple things. One, we could start sketching and creating these things above, but while we're working on this base I'm going to finish it out. I'm going to make this hole on the side. To do that you're going to sketch on this face, and you're going to make a rectangle. We're just going to loosely define a rectangle, and then we'll dimension it into place. Okay, so I just made a rectangle. I'm going to dimension that to be 10 tall. And I'm going to dimension it to be 85 wide. And it's also 10 from the edge. So from this edge to here, it's 10. Excuse me, finish sketch, extrude cut, and you want this to go all the way through, so you can just say distance all. Say OK. So now we've created our base cutout, and we're going to chamfer this edge. Now, when you click this edge to start a chamfer, this is different. It's 15 in one direction and 10 in another. So we're going to have to come to this button, D1, D2, and we're going to change this, one of them to 15 and one of them to 10. And then we'll click an edge. Now you're going to have to look at this because the yellow one is the 15. The silver one is the 10. So yellow is bigger, silver is 10. And the way you can fix that is you just come right here and you flip the relationship, say OK. Alright, so we've created our chamfered edge. Now we're going to sketch on the top of this surface. And I'm going to orient it so it looks like how we're looking at here. So basically we're sketching on this surface a rectangle that is 60 by 60. I guess that's a square we have then, or a cube shape. Let's double check. Looks like it's 60 by 60. Yeah, so we'll do that. We're going to make a rectangle just anywhere, dimension it to be 60 by 60. Let's get rid of that. Dimension here. Then we're going to dimension from the face, it's 15. Oh, it's only 45 deep if you look there, so this thickness should be 55, 45. That's why it looks weird. Okay, good. Now, it's 20 over from this edge, so all I'm doing is just adding in these dimensions to anchor it into place. 20 from there, 15 from the front edge, and it's locked in. Finish sketch. We're going to extrude that to be 30 tall, 30 millimeters tall, and we're going to say OK. Now, the next thing you're going to do, this is where it gets a little tricky. We're going to sketch on this face, this cylindrical feature, like this. And again, we're just going to create a loose circle. Remember, these are in radius, so you need to double it to get the diameter. So I'm going to do the outer circle, which is 15 radius or 30 diameter. And I'm going to place that first, then come in and add the donut once I get done. So I've got a circle, and I need to dimension that circle. Now, the key here is the center point of the circle is what you have to orient. If we trace that center point along, it's coincident. It sits along the line that is the edge of the block here. So you can come up here and you can do coincident or collinear constraint. And what you'll take is you'll take this line and make it flush to there. Right? And that makes that point always stay on that edge. That way, if you flex this, right, or if I take this circle, it'll stay coincident to there. So now we've made a 30, which is this outer rectangle. And then the first thing we're going to do is finish that sketch. Because here's where it gets tricky. We're going to extrude this sketch, but this is not a normal extrusion. We have to, instead of do a symmetric or one direction or the other, we have to do an asymmetric extrusion. So the yellow number is our first one, and the silver one is our second number. Now, we got to do a little bit of math. The silver one right here is 10, so I can go ahead and make the smaller one 10. Oh, or rather, the yellow one 10. See how it shrinks to this size. And then the total distance is 80 on this cylinder. Well, if I take 80 minus 10, that leaves the rest as 70. Right? Or, oh, I'm sorry, it's 60. These numbers, the 6s and 8s look similar. That would give you our shape like we see here. Now the next thing you're going to do is sketch on the cylinder. And we're going to sketch that hole all the way through. And to do that, we're going to click Project Geometry. We're going to project this circle, and we're going to create a new circle from the center. And that new circle is going to be, the radius is 10, so the diameter is 20. We're going to say Finish Sketch, and you're going to extrude and cut that. So then once you create that circle, you'll have that single cutout. Alright, let's move on to the next one, the stop block. Alright, so we're going to make another new part. And standard millimeter, okay, create. First thing we're going to do is make the base feature, this one part right here. So we're going to go to and sketch on our XY. And I'm going to make that rectangle. It's 100 by 20. Notice how much I use my dimensioning tool. You should be doing the same. 100, and the thickness is 20. Alright, so we say OK. I'm going to extrude that. The thickness is 30 plus 10 plus 10, that's 50. I'm going to make that symmetrical because I like things centered on the axes. And then I'll make this quick cutout. It's 30 by 10 on this back edge. So I'm going to make a rectangle from this corner. And then I'm going to dimension that 30 by 10. Say finish, extrude cut, distance all, okay. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to create this little cutout. And this is going to take 2 cuts. What we're going to do is we're going to sketch on the top surface here. And we're going to create, we're going to create a rectangle right here that cuts through all the way to that depth. So what that would do is that rectangle is going to be 20 wide by 20 minus 5, 15 deep. That's how we're getting all the way down there. So I'm going to make a rectangle 20 wide by 30 long. So this is 30. This here is 20. And then it's 10 from either edge. That should be 10. Finish sketch. Now when we cut this, we only want to cut it to that little shelf there, and that little shelf is 20 minus 5 deep, right? So that's 15. Extrude, cut, make it 15, say OK. And that gives us our first shelf. Now I want to cut that last little rectangle out. So we're going to sketch on this face that we just made, and we're going to sketch another rectangle that's just a little smaller. It's 10 by 30 off of this back edge. So if you notice, I can hover my mouse over and it'll create a nice snapped dimension. You can check it to make sure, always dimension it. 10. And you're going to finish that, extrude, cut. This goes through all of it. Alright, so there's the base of the block. Now the next thing we're going to add is this cylinder. Okay? The cylinder is going to be located Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to create this cylinder. To create the cylinder, you're going to sketch on the outer face from the first object. And we're going to place it. Now this cylinder is tangent. If you draw a straight line up from the edge of the block, that cylinder is tangent, because if the radius is 15, the diameter is 30, which means it will line up with this exact little cutout we made down here, which is 30. So we're going to go ahead and draw a circle just off into nowhere, and it's going to be 30. And we're going to create some constraints. So we'll do tangent, like that. And then we're going to dimension the center point to the top of the object, like that, and get 25. And you're good. You're good to go. So you finish that sketch. We extrude it. And we're going to extrude it to, this other face, because it's a total distance of 52. Now you can type in 50 or whatever you want, but I like using the extents box. So that's okay. Now, here's the key. I made the center plane of my object. If you notice, this plane right here is the center of my object, because this feature, this little wedge, has to be created in that way. Now there's a couple ways we could make it. One is we could sketch on this surface. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch on my midplane a shape that follows these rules of 25 tall and has a 10 coming off of the chamfer, and then we have 10 down here. So I'm going to sketch on that midplane, and I'm going to come over here, I'm going to view, I'm going to turn on my wireframe with hidden edges, because what that does, that tells me some other measurements I'm going to need from here, like these dimensions. So I'm going to sketch this basic wedge. Alright, I'm just going to draw a line up from this endpoint. Alright, I'm going to go up 25. And then I'm going to go over just some distance, it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to come down some distance, and then I'm going to close that shape. And then we're going to let the dimensions do the work. So now I've made the wedge. I need a dimension of that line, which should be 10. And what we'll do is we'll actually hit delete on this horizontal line we made. We're going to go project geometry, we're going to project that circle, and then we're going to draw a line that's flat right there. And now we can dimension that line to be 10. And then we can dimension this endpoint. Oh, if it'll let me get it. Let's see if I can, there it is. I'm deleting all those other lines so I can just grab that endpoint. It won't let me. Well, here's what I would do. I would take, and we're going to create a guideline. So I'm just going to make a vertical line that's like a construction line. I'm going to click on it and make it a construction line with this button. That makes it not matter when I extrude anything, but I can use this as a guide to dimension from the face of this inside of the object to my line here, and that needs to be 10. And then what we want is we want this line to touch from that intersection to the endpoint there. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to make sure things are parallel. There we go, flatten that line out. And then I'm going to draw a line from this intersection to that endpoint, and then I'm going to close that off. Now there's a couple other ways you can do this, but I just did it this way so that I could show you midpoints creating construction lines. These construction lines are a great tool when you can't get dimensions to be the way you want. And then we finish that sketch. We can come back to our visual style, change that to shaded with hidden edges, and now we can extrude that leftover right there. Symmetrical extrusion, and it's 20 total. And there is your stop block. Alright, now we got one more we're going to do. The guide socket. Alright, now this one is going to be a little trickier. We're going to start with the blocks here, this major center block, and then we're going to add the wheels, and then we'll cut out this part for the seat. So I'm going to make a new part. And we're going to sketch on the XY, and I'm just going to make this box first. So this box is 30 by 30, that's 60 plus 15, 75, 85 long, total distance 85 long by 40. So it's 85 by 40. Alright, so I'm going to make a rectangle, and then I'm going to dimension that rectangle. Here, it's 85, and then from here, that's 40. And I'm going to make sure I center it again with my project geometry. And I'm going to dimension or symmetrical constraint that. Alright, now we're going to finish that, extrude it. The thickness of this entire object, or let's see, the thickness of just this portion is going to be the radius, because the tires, if you notice the bottom of the block here, the bottom of that block is the radius plus 10. So if you look at the radius here, the radius is 25. Right, so if we follow that, that's 25 up to here, and then it's another 10, so it's 35 on that side. So the thickness of this should only be 35. So what I've just made there is just this bottom block, this bottom portion. And we're going to need to now, we're going to sketch on this side surface a solid extrusion which represents this shape here. So I'm going to sketch on the side surface that we've made of my block. And I'm just going to sketch what this looks like in profile. So we're going to come up from the back corner. It's going to go up some distance. It's going to go over at an angle. It's going to come over at an angle here. Then it's going to come down. And then close off. Something like that. And what we can do now is we can start dimensioning that. So we know this is going to be 10. We know that the angles here are 5 and 5. So you can measure from this line to this line, say be 5. And you can measure from this point to this line and make it be 5. Then we know this is 15 by 15, so I can take this point to here, make that 15, and then I can take that point to here and make that 15. Alright, now that total height should only be, like from here to here, this should only be 20 because we're taking that 15 plus that 5. And so we're going to say finish sketch. I'm going to extrude that to here, and we're going to say OK. And so now what I've made is this chunk. Now you could have sketched this whole side view like that if you wanted. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the wheels. So let's go ahead and make these wheels. I'm going to sketch on this surface. And the hint here is that the edge of the box follows down and is tangent to the center wheel. And like we discussed, the radius of the wheel is the bottom of the box here. That's the center point. These two edges, these points, are your center points for your circles. So if our radius is 25, our diameter is 50. We're going to create a circle from here, go 50, and over here, we'll go 50. The first thing we need to do is make these outer circles first, solid, and then we'll cut through a little portion. So these have a 50 diameter. We're going to say finish sketch, and this is where again we come back to our asymmetrical extrusion. We go to extrusion, we make it asymmetrical, and we want 5 on one side to take it out front, and then we want 40 plus 5 to take it out to the back side. So that's 5 and then 45. So one of these is going to be 5, and one of these is going to be 45. And we'll say OK. Now we got 2 more steps and then we're done. The next step, we're going to sketch on these faces of these circles. And we're going to create project geometry, project these geometries, and we're going to create circles inside that are radius 15 or diameter 30. I'm going to say finish sketch. We're going to extrude and cut those 10 millimeters. And then the final thing we're going to do is we're going to sketch on top of our chair here, on top of our car, and we're going to cut out this rectangular void that shows up here. And here's how we're going to do that. We're going to sketch just a loose rectangle. See, if you look, it goes up to the edge of our line here. So this edge of this chamfer, this drawn sketch we have on the back seat, comes out some rectangular shape. Right, so we're just going to loosely sketch and start to define this. You may turn on your wireframe so you can see what you're sketching. And we're going to start dimensioning. This thing is 5 from either edge. And it's 30 from the front edge. Right, so we have, and it should be coplanar to this back edge. So notice that beginning of that chamfer, which is 15 back, should be hitting this back edge. Alright, then what you do is you extrude. We're going to click this object, right? We're going to pull it up, but we're going to do an asymmetrical extrusion. So again, we're going to click asymmetrical, and we're cutting down 10 into the chair, and we're just cutting up to infinity, so it cuts all that out. So let's just make one of these 10, and the other one like 100 or something crazy. And then you can say, okay, as long as your 100 is going up and not cutting out your object. Oops. If you ever mess up an extrusion, just open it back up, turn it to cut, and it'll fix everything for you. So then you go to View, change your visual style, make sure it's coincident and follows the object you've built. And make sure you save each of these files, and you'll place them on a drawing with dimensions and move on.